Hello and welcome to the Week 2 overview for Marketing 301 Media Planning and Buying. This is Professor Rex Babish, and this video will be a very quick overview of the upcoming week's assignments and readings. Again, our required text is Advertising Media Planning from Jack Scissors. If you have not already acquired the book, please make sure you go online. There are free versions of it. I'm not encouraging you to use that as your text for the course, but it may be helpful for you to know. Having the physical book is helpful, but there are things online you can obtain that will help you access the readings throughout the course digitally. A thing to note, Chapter 2 is a sample media presentation, media plan presentation. So you will see that our course individual projects and group projects are all aligned to this sample plan. There's a hypothetical company that's the subject of the plan, and it breaks down every single section of the media plan section by section. So if you're looking at the assignment descriptions going forward and you are wondering what it might look like, or if you would like examples, there's already an exemplar that's embedded in the text. Chapter 2 in its entirety will show you every section of your media plan, and the individual projects ramp up so that by the end of them you'll merge them all together and that will be a full media plan. The same thing with the group projects. You may have noticed now you'll be functioning as a client and also a media planner from an agency. So knowing what each component of the media plan is important to think about from the client side and from the agency side. So that's why the course is constructed this way. But in any event, those are the things that you'll be expected to be writing toward throughout all of your group and individual projects, and they are spelled out in much more detail in Chapter 2, and each successive chapter after that goes even deeper within each one of these content areas. Chapter 3 begins the discussion of really understanding where in the purchasing process your target consumer happens to be. This is also called the funnel. Where in the funnel are they? This will help you determine your strategy. We are all more amenable or open to receiving messages, advertising messages, if we are actively thinking of making a purchase. So knowing where your target consumer is in that process is really important because it will definitely impact how you go about marketing and also how you go about placing ads in front of them. And always thinking about this, the clients will want to know how you're measuring success. And if you are on the client side of things, your superiors will want to know, well, how do you know that campaign's having the desired impact you want it to have? Are you meeting your measures? What are the measures? Those are questions that are constantly in front of us, no matter where we are, client or agency side. So the discussion about what's having what impact is an ongoing process, and the more you know and the more experience you have, the better you are able to really think about how to place those ads strategically. So how do consumers process information from different types of mediums? Chapter 3 goes further into how we pay attention or not based off of what medium is in front of us, and also, again, as mentioned earlier, where we are in the purchasing process also impacts how attentive we are to media messages when they come at us. So breaking down television, radio, non-traditional, also online, all of those different types of mediums have different engagement levels. So you have an ability to spread your message differently depending on what medium you are sending the message through. And again, knowing where in the purchasing process your target consumer is will definitely impact how and where and when you want to send that message, and even how often. Other considerations presented in Chapter 3 that you need to get under your belt is to never forget how the 4 Ps, the marketing mix from Marketing 101, impacts your ability to implement your strategies and meet your objectives. So how is product, price, place, and promotion mixed together strategically to reach your target consumer as effectively as possible. And also a separate idea here, but it also connects, is what are the basic measurements of media audiences? So each medium has its own way of determining its reach and or its impact. So television, you can think of Nielsen ratings. Every single industry will have its own tool for which measures can be obtained, and many companies will subscribe to these services so that they can get more points of information about how their media campaign has landed. And finally, the chapter ends with examining the 5 questions that media research cannot answer. A thing to keep in mind is even the best ratings metrics and research data really cannot trump our own experience about knowing what works in what conditions and for which people. The data is limited in the fact that it can never really truly know the reach or the impact a message might have, and your experience may tell you that it's either overstating its impact or understating its impact. But looking at things objectively is oftentimes difficult, but one of the most common mistakes in the media planning industry is that people make very strong assumptions about the data in front of them, as if the data is the end all and be all, and it actually causes people to be too subjective by over relying on the data. So, this data is, even under perfect conditions and the best it can be, cannot answer several questions. I mean, we never truly know when enough is enough with our ad campaign. When is it and where is it most effectively placed? We can always make our most educated guesses. Experience and really being observant about the many different factors that impact a campaign helps you make better decisions over time. Data sometimes will support what your intuition's telling you, and sometimes it doesn't. But then being able to reconcile that in a way that is meets peer approval, really, because you're always talking about this in the context of meeting with your client and or your bosses. Your superiors may want to know why you're continuing doing something even though the data tells you not to, for instance. And those are things you have to be ready to explain and convince people of why you're taking the course of action you're taking. When is the best environment, or where is the best environment to be placing ads as never 100% knowable? Is it better to have a campaign where you're using flighting or continuity? Again, your experience will often be the best judge, and data will help you in some instances, but those people who are the most inexperienced, again, oftentimes put more stock in the data than they might realize they should. And also, when is a commercial worn out, or when is your message just not getting through? When people become overfamiliar with an ad, they tend to tune it out more easily. So keeping things fresh and new and current is oftentimes a challenge. For your group projects, the group leaders should reach out to me by the end of this week to let me know what your group norms are. And specifically what I'm looking for is that you've had a conversation this week where you've determined as a team where and when and how you will meet. That could be in person or online, and even get as specific as saying what platform you'll communicate on. If you all are going to chime into a Zoom conference meeting and or a free web conference call, any sort of specifics are helpful. And by the time the weekends, you should have a rough idea of who you think will be responsible for what. You may just say something as generic as, we're just going to split all the work evenly, but if that's actually not how you're going to go about things, you should make sure there's a common understanding as a team before you start the work as to what that is. So try to be as detailed as possible. Some teams just decide to separate things based off of research or presentation or content writing. So those are other ways you could divide the work. And also submit to me a rough calendar. It doesn't have to be anything too lengthy, but when will you meet? You might say something like, well, make sure that we meet for at least an hour for a work session a week before the project is due. So then what that helps me do is if someone says to me, team member whose name is blank has not chimed into our meetings when we know we are all supposed to meet at least one full week before a project is due. So what will happen then is you will send me messages. If people are not pulling their weight, they will not get credit for having done the assignment. Maybe you'll even tell me, well, they were supposed to do X amount of work, but they only did, half of it, 50% of it. And so then I'll grade them accordingly. So just because you're on a team, not everyone's going to get the same grade if you communicate to me that people are not following your team norms. So I have to know what those are in order to make those decisions. So message me on Canvas. Make sure you copy all of your group members. The group leader is the first person that signed into the group. So your group, if you go on Canvas and hit people, it should be clear who the group leader is, but I will make a chart also so it's clear and reach out to the group leaders via Canvas as well by the end of the week. Quiz number 1, which it's had a due date for April 9th, which is this Tuesday. And so I extended it 1 week because some people are now just joining the course. The add drop period is still very active. So until the roster settles and people have the time to acquire the book and do the readings, this first quiz and this first quiz only, I extend 1 additional week just to give people time to sort of catch up. I know you're all starting new classes and things, and it's week 1 is sometimes a challenge. So don't expect this after this week, though. Quiz number 2 is still due on April 16th. It will cover chapters 2 and 3 and any other course discussions and learnings that we are making a part of week 2 activities. So make sure, if that sounds like a lot for you to do 2 quizzes on 1 day, make sure you plan for that accordingly. No other quizzes will be extended. I have each quiz set so that you can see the correct answers after the quiz deadline has passed. You should be able to go back in and see what you got wrong, what the correct answers were, and this will help you study for the final exam. Also, there can be no quiz makeups. After the deadline passes, it's over, and this is because I'm showing people the answer, so it would be very unfair for people just to wait and then find out answers from a friend or what have you, and that puts everyone on an unequal and equitable playing field. So quiz deadlines are very strict. If you miss it, you're going to have to try to figure out how to just accept the fact that you lost yourself some points in the course. There will be extra credit opportunities near the end of the quarter. I'll start offering those up probably in, I would say, late May, early June. So if you have any questions, please message me on Canvas or email me at rex.bobish@bellevuecollege.edu. I do prefer emails only because when you message me on Canvas, it sends me the email anyway. So if it's easier for you while you're just in Canvas to message me, that's fine. I just ask people to email because it reduces the number of emails and messages I have to read twice. So it's really not that big of a deal. So either way that's easier for you is fine. Or you can call me at 240-394-1248. Remember, I am in New York City, which is 3 hours ahead of you in Seattle. So just keep that in mind. I will always try to return your call within 1 to 2 business days max. Thank you all, and good luck with week 2.